Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you've tuned into the #1 undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxey.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Boxing Breakdown. I am your host, Mark Roxey, and I am here with my partner in crime, Mr. Harold Hunt. What's up, Harold?
Hey, man. How you doing, man? I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
I'm good, and thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, thank you for being with us. And if you are with us tonight on YouTube, thank you. Do not forget to hit the like and subscribe, and also smash that notifications button down below. This way, we know that you're with us every time we go live. And please get into the conversation if you'd like to share something with us tonight. We would love that. This is the first episode of 2023. And the thing I want to tell you about that is last year, Harold, we did 24 episodes. We basically did a episode every 2 weeks. That was our average episode. We try to get on every week, but we averaged every 2 weeks, man. Our greatest listening area is Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, New York. What's up, Brooklyn? My hometown. Thank you guys from Brooklyn, from the BK, tuning in. We really appreciate your love. And coming in second place last year was California. California was number 2 with the greatest listening population, followed by number 3. I don't know what's up, but Philadelphia comes in at number 3 as the most listened area for the Boxing Breakdown. Number 4 is Virginia. All right, shout out Virginia. And then number 5 is Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. How about that? That's your hometown.
It is. My hometown, my second hometown, but yes, one of them.
So the good news here, Harold, is we got 24 countries tuning in to the Boxing Breakdown, which is very cool. We're pretty much jet setters, bro. We're jet setters. We've got United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Hong Kong, and Ghana. We got people from Ghana tuning into the program, bro. Pretty awesome, right?
Impressive, yes.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And our number one, so here's a couple of the previous episodes that were really rocking for us. Our number 1 episode, actually, let me start with number 5. Our number 5 episode was the Tyson Fury versus Dillian White, Ryan Garcia, Fundura, Lubin, Esparza. That podcast we did was fire, coming in at number 5 most listened to podcast this year. Excuse me. Number 4 is Terrence Crawford and his legal debacle with Top Rank. That comes in at number 4. Number 2 was the news on Canelo, Teofimo, David Benavidez, Demetrius Andres, and Zach Parker. That podcast comes in at number 2. I'm surprised at that. And then the number 1 podcast was Canelo's 85 mil for the Thurman's future, Errol Spence versus Ugas, and Serrano Taylor, Don King event that happened. That is our number 1 listened to podcast. Ding, 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 from last year. So, Harold, we did a lot last year. It is quite a rundown. We did 1,620 minutes of podcasting in 2022, man. We did 24 episodes, featured in 24 countries, and we had 14,000 podcast downloads. So that's pretty cool, bro. Pretty cool. Harold. How about that?
Hey, that's great numbers. Great numbers.
Yeah, man. So I'm excited about today. I'm really excited about today because we are going to now chop up Showtime pay-per-view recap from primarily from January 7th, 2023. The event took place at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. And it was the District of Columbia Commission, Combat Sports Commission. The promoter was Tom Brown, Samson Lewitsky, and the matchmaker is Tom Brown. But this was a Showtime pay-per-view event. The numbers are staggering. It was a great night of boxing. And listen, this is the thing that's really awesome. Our man, Harold Hunt, was there. He was there at ringside doing some of the work that he does at these fights. And so tonight we're going to have a really interesting perspective at looking at some of these fights. So it was a great card. I mean, there were tons of matches on the card. So Harold, were there any standout preliminary bouts that took place during your time there?
Yes. Yes, I happened to be there and it was great. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, man. I thank God for that. So there were several fights that were undercards that were really well done. The best one was, in my opinion, was Mia Ellis. She was the sister of Rashid Ellis, and her skill set was great.
Wow.
So that was the best. But there were several good fights, but her skill set stood out for sure.
So, okay, that fight took place at 128 pounds. I think they weighed in 128.4. Karen Doolin is Mia Ellis fought Karen Doolin, and she came in at 29.75 pounds, right? And
yes.
So interesting fight. Doolin comes in at five wins, 25 losses with one draw, which is not uncommon for, female fighters, but, Mia Ellis comes in at 5 wins with 1 loss. So tell me about the fight. What happened?
Well, I was in the locker room with her father, and when she won the amateur competition, she won $100,000. And he showed me the pictures.
Wow. Okay.
So as far as that's concerned, amateur-wise, she did well, and she won the tournament, and she made, that amount of money just recently. Wow. So now she's 5-1. Yep. So she's just coming up. But she seems, all her style is straight. It's not, it's like a fighter. It's not female fighter or male fighter. It's just a fighter. Wow. So there's none of the necessary the feminine type movements. She just fights like anyone would fight. I don't want to say fight like a man, but she fights like a fighter. Yeah. I'm very impressed with that.
Okay. All right. I like that. She's probably in there sparring Rashid Ellis. She's probably in there sparring her brother. I wouldn't doubt it.
Maybe so.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. What else? So did you see the Keyshawn Williams versus Gustavo Davis Vitor? How was that a fight you were able to catch?
No, I was in the back with some of the other fighters, getting them ready to bring them out, sign their gloves, that type of thing. I was the specter that evening.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I was doing
that. So therefore, I missed some fights, but I did bring some people out, and it was in the ring with them doing their fight. So I can, talk about that pretty easily because I was there, just right on hand.
Right, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, for the listeners, I just want to give them a kind of a loose rundown of the whole card because I mean, there's a lot of fights on this card. I mean, they must have started like 5 hours before the main event, something like that.
I had to be there like 2:00.
Oh wow! You had to be there at 2:00, and Showtime started at 9:00 in the evening.
And then we had an hour and a half set in between.
Wow!
in between the network.
Yeah.
And the streaming service.
Oh, an hour and a half in between that?
Yes.
Oh wow, crazy. So, what about the Brandon Lee fight? Were you able to catch that one? Were you involved in that fight?
I was in his corner. I had his hands wrapped. I signed off in his gloves.
Okay.
And I had a conversation with his father.
Yeah.
And his father was very adamant about when are we going to go on? When are we going to go on? I said, well, there's other fights ahead of you. They could be knockouts and we go quick, or they could be long. So he was very impatient, but he was a good guy. And I brought Brandon Lee out, and he fought really well.
Yeah. So let's talk about that fight. He obviously won that fight, right?
Yes.
He TKO'd Diego Gonzalez Luque, right, in the fourth round, right around 2 minutes and 55 seconds of the fourth round. So what were your feelings about the fight? Was it competitive at all up until that?
Well, I say about the first round, it was competitive.
Yeah.
The second round, then you knew who the dominant person was, and it was just a matter of time because he already cut the ring off for me. He already cut the distance, and he was landing some of his better punches. So it was a kind of foregone thing that it would be over by 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Wow. So then, after the Brandon Lee fight, there was a fight between Jaron Davis and Christian Fabian Rios, right?
Right.
And that went 8 rounds, right? So Jaron Davis comes into the fight 16 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. And Christian Fabian Rios comes in at 23 wins, 15 losses, and 3 draws. So that not the most impressive record for sure. And the judges had the scores 80-72, 80-72, and 79-73 for Jaron Davis, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't keep up with the judges' scores actually because I was an inspector, so I didn't even scrutinize them. I haven't even looked at your scores really. It was a whole different world when you're doing an inspector. But yeah, I didn't get to see him fight because I was back in the back having somebody else's hands wrapped, watching that. So they had monitors all over, but you really couldn't sit and just watch. Really, you really couldn't. The only way you could really get a good look in the job was to be there.
Right. So it looks like
it was work.
It looks like Jaron Davis won all 8 rounds. So, it's not really that competitive of a fight because he dominated all 8 rounds. Then we move on to Vito Mieinicki Jr., who came into the fight. They fought at 153 and a quarter pound, 152 and 3/4 pounds for Omar Rosales. And Vito Mieinicki comes in 13 wins, 1 loss, no draws. And Omar Rosales comes in at 9 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. So it was, I guess it was a scheduled 10-round fight. It only went 4 rounds, right?
Yes.
So I guess there must have been a stoppage there. It was a win by TKO. So
yeah, they were in the back with us, and before they went out, and he had about maybe 9-10 people in this camel colored set of pants and shirt,
right,
and sweats rather. So they were really a lot of them, and they were all dressed in the same color. So back while he was getting his hands wrapped, he had a lot of people around him. They were all dressed. It was nice. It was cool to see.
All right. He had like a little mini entourage, right?
He had a lot of people standing in there in that color for sure.
Wow. Awesome. Good for him, man. Good for him. That's all I can say, right?
Yeah.
Dang. So, anyway, if you guys are tuning in, thank you for tuning in, and please, join in on the conversation. We're excited to hear your remarks about the fights, any of the fights, if you'd like to join in. We appreciate that. And don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the notifications. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please make sure you rate us. Give us a rate for our podcast. Let us know how we're doing. We really want to know, and we really want to improve our podcast. So thank you very much. And then, so let's get into the next fight. Now, this is a really important fight on this card, right? A lot of people have been talking about Demetrius Andrade and, what his desire to fight Canelo. And, there's been a lot of heat around Demetrius Andrade. So he steps into the ring at 167 pounds. His opponent, Demond Nicholson, steps in the ring at 167.25 pounds. And, both of them have pretty good records. I mean, Andrade has a 31-0, and Nicholson is 26-4 with one draw. And this particular fight also went the distance. There was no knockout. It went all the way. Were you able to see that fight?
Yeah, I was back there with Andrade, and I went over to him. I said, hey, I like your work.
Yeah.
So he warms up to James Brown. All the James Brown songs from his greatest hits.
Right.
That's what he has on while he's warming up and having his hand wrapped.
I understand that.
That's a nice little tidbit.
Yeah.
So he was really into it, and that's all he played was James Brown for maybe an hour and a half.
Right.
When he was wrapping his hands, warming up. As far as the fight is concerned, he threw every punch with intention.
Yeah.
He did not slow up anything. He did not pitter-pat. Every punch was a power punch.
Yeah.
And his stamina was great.
Wow.
He did great. He did great.
So,
there was no issue. His fight was entertaining because he was aggressive the entire time.
Right. I bet you with that fight, Harold, I can understand, and I'm pretty sure that his team said, get out there, give us all the rounds, make sure you go the distance so we can really bank those rounds. Those are really good quality pro rounds. I'll tell you what, the referee was Malik Walid, and the scores for this particular bout were 188, 100-88, and 100-88. So all the judges unanimously had it for Demetrius Andrade. So, I mean, the guy didn't even win one round with that score.
No, he didn't. It was a whitewash, but the fitness that Andrade had to have to be that aggressive offensively, that entire fight, that was impressive.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Some people say that's the best version they've ever seen of him. And he's been champion, and he's beat a lot of people, knocked a lot of people out.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. I mean, that's great news for Demetrius Andrade. Hopefully he's going to get some big fights coming down the line. It sounds to me like this was just a keep him busy kind of fight, which is great. Keep him busy in between the fights. So you can't blame the team for doing something like that.
But also, it was his first fight with Al Heyman, and he put him on TV because he was over with the zone, and it was a different situation.
Right.
Now he comes to Al Heyman. He gives him a fight on TV.
Yeah. That's a big deal, man. That's a big deal that he comes right over and he gets right in line. He gets right up in there. He was
good for his career.
Yeah.
Good move. And he performed well. He did what he's supposed to do.
Right. That's what you're supposed to do when you have that moment. When you have that moment to be out there on the big stage. Yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to do.
He still got a knockdown, but he still proved he can go 12.
10.
Which everyone knows he likes to go long, but he still knocked the guy down.
Yeah.
And then he was strong throughout. He was impressive, Mark.
Yeah, that's great. How was his hand speed?
It was above average, above him.
Yeah.
He was so he fought aggressively the whole fight.
For you guys listening in, man, that's pretty new. If you're gonna bet on Demetrius Andrade, if his hand speed is up and he looked in better shape than he's ever looked, that's a good look for him because he's trying to get those big fights, man, and he's got to look good. He's got to look real good to get in with the big boys.
Okay, who's next?
Yeah, man. So we beat that horse. Let's get into the Rashid Ellis versus Romain Villa. That fight took place that was in the welterweight division, 146.25 and 145.75. So Rashid comes in at 146.25 and Roman comes in at 145.75. The fight went 12 rounds. It went the entire distance of the fight. Looks like it was a majority decision loss for Roman Villa. Oh, no, for Rashid Ellis. Pardon me. And this was a very, very controversial situation. So, Harold, break that down for us.
Well, I was assigned to their locker room, Ellis's locker room. So I was in there with them maybe 2 hours or something like that while they were wrapping hands and talking and back and forth and just, they had Michael Jackson on. It was, it was like they pulled me into their circle for a amount of time because I was an inspector and I had to be there.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, he was ready to go. And I also went to his opponent's locker room, which was right next door, and I looked at him. Yeah. And I saw him move around too. Yeah. So I was able to look at both of them as they warmed up, and I went back to him, and I just felt like it. They're going to put on a good fight. I always thought it was the best fight of the night,
right? And
I would like to be a part of it, and they gave it to me, so that was really good. But as far as during the fight, when I had to get into the ring between each round, he never looked dejected. He just looked kind of surprised that the other guy was being able to do what he was doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, so for the listeners, Harold, I'm just going to repeat this, right? Like you had the 3 judges had it scored 112 to 114, 113 to 113 as a draw, and then 112 to 114 in favor of Roman Villa. So now I know Rashid Ellis was knocked down 2 times, and in the 2 knockdowns, how were those knockdowns? I mean, were they flash knockdowns? Was he hurt? Tell for the benefit of the people listening in.
Well, one was a flash knockdown, clear. The other one just kind of knocked him off balance. It was powerful enough to set him right down. Yeah. And you could be hurt by it, but he got up. But the first one was a flash knock. The other one was pretty solid, but he got right up. It was some situation we had to kind of hold on. Yeah. At times, and he did that well. Did that well. Yeah. A lot of fights don't have that discipline. He was able to do that.
Right. His tie-up skills were sharp.
Yes.
Yeah. So the controversy comes in because many of the people observing in the arena that night and on television felt that Rashid Ellis was winning all the other rounds. And I was in the gym yesterday, and I heard some comments from some people. Oh man, he was robbed. He got robbed. I'm like, what do you mean he got robbed? He goes, he was totally robbed. He won every round except for the 2 knockdowns. So tell me, what do you say about that, Harold?
I gotta plead the fifth because I'm a boxing judge. Yeah, and I cannot pontificate on that situation. Yeah. I cannot. However, I will say, judging by the crowd, judging by the field, because I was an inspector, I had nothing to do with the judging. Yeah. The crowd was surprised that he did not win.
Wow. And were there any throwing bottles or breaking chairs, standing up? Like, was there any of that happening?
Yeah, I ducked a couple balls. No, man, it wasn't that type of thing. But it was entertaining. Yeah, it was back and forth. People reeling from punches, and it was great. Right. It was great drama. It was. And immediate rematch has been called for.
Oh, really?
Yes. Negotiations have begun on that.
Well, it was a close fight. I mean, you got a draw in the middle, and it could have gone either way, right? It looks
Get another check.
Yeah,
Get another check and make a wrong right. Well, or make a wrong again. We have to see.
I will say that, Rashid Ellis's last fight, I can't remember the gentleman's name, who he fought, but I distinctly remember that the fight that he had. Oh no, it was 2 fights ago. I apologize. He fought a guy named Alexis Rocha, right? And when he fought Alexis Rocha, one of the things I thought about that fight is how close Rocha was coming to really connecting with Rashid Ellis. But Rashid Ellis, he tied up at the right times. He threw speedy combinations that landed, and he just really pulled ahead in that fight and was able to really dominate the fight. And when I looked at the characteristics of this fight, one of the things I noticed was, this guy, Roman Villa, I think he's getting closer to having Rashid Ellis's number. When I was looking at the way he was crossing the mark and the way he was getting up into the pocket on Rashid Ellis, I was thinking, okay, he clearly learned something from Alexis Rocha. And I wonder if they even sparred together and they shared, they compared notes to prepare for this fight, because it was a very, very close fight. Either way you go, it was a close fight. So I would like to see that. I'll run that back again, right?
Yeah, Ellis had to fight. He had to pop that back foot. He had to score.
No.
He had to, he did what he had to do as a judge. That's nice work. If you can score, then you have to be on the back foot.
Yeah.
And you see him scoring cleanly.
Yeah.
That's art. You got to be able to do that. And he does that, and it's nice to judge that type of skill set.
Yeah. No. I would listen. I would definitely run that back. So I hope that the folks at PBC will run that back. I'd be excited to see that fight. And let's get on. Let's push this on here, Harold. Let's get into what we really came here to talk about, right? Is our boy from Philly. Shout out Philly, Jaron Ennis versus Karen Chuhadielsahan. I think I said that right, but probably not. Karen. Yes. Let's talk about Jaron versus Karen.
Well, I was fortunate enough to bring him out in the rear. So I came out with his entourage at the end of it, at Ennis.
Okay.
So
you were at the end of the line? That was a long line, I'm sure. I was at the end of the line, yeah. I had to be in the ring when he got in. Yeah.
And then after he got introduced, I had to get out, but I couldn't get back in anymore. The other inspector was handling all the duties.
Okay.
So I got to sit in Leonard Ellerby's seat.
No,
the
what?
Promoter would, yes.
Where the heck where was Ellerby? Where was he?
He was with Tank in his locker room.
Okay.
So I got to sit there.
Wow.
And watch the fight in his seat. And his person said, hey, he's coming, but you can sit here. He'll be here for the Tank fight. So I was able to really see what went on with Ennis. And a lot of things came up supposedly, and I'd like to discuss them on, the fight itself.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into that. The fight took place at 147 pound. It was a welterweight fight. Jaron Ennis weighed in at 145.5 pounds. His record's 29-0 with no draws. And Karen Chukazandan is 146.25 pounds. His record was 21-1 coming into the fight. The judges scored the fight 120 to 108. 120 to 108 and 120 to 108. It was for the IBF interim world welterweight title. I think it's an interim title, some sort of interim title, right, Harold? Maybe you could speak about that and go. Bam.
Well, the title thing was a nice piece, if you will. I'll leave that alone. But Mr. Ennis came in with all the hype and everything. He wraps his own hands.
Right.
So back in the locker room, he was wrapping his own hands, and Pacquiao wraps his own hands. And Mark, some other fighters that wraps their own hands. I believe Bud wraps his own hands. So that's something, I haven't really seen a lot of, live, but he wrapped his hands. So the fight itself, he wanted to prove to everyone that he could do what he needed to do. But Karen had great footwork, and he was able to stay away. And I'm more impressed with Karen's footwork because it helps him survive, but it shows that he was in excellent shape to move like that for 12 rounds with Ennis, who was a killer. And Ennis knows how to cut the ring off, but he couldn't cut it off against Karen.
Right.
And that is the part that is beautiful about boxing, because this man moved, and it was impressive the way he moved. to stay out of harm's way. And yet he threw as many punches as Ennis did.
All right. So what was the deciding factor? What was the different factor? Was it the punch output?
His punches were not offensive. Okay. His was defensive punches to keep Ennis off balance. Right. Ennis's punches were the scoring variety for the judges, and that's why it came out the way it did. But that man, Karen, can really move, and it was impressive. Great footwork. You're talking about ballet, sir.
Yes.
He had it.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I mean, it's great. Losing to Jaron Ennis is not the end of the world. Let me tell you why it's not the end of the world, Harold. Because Jaron Ennis is the real deal. He's a future world champion. He's going to unify. He's the real deal, man. I really am having high hopes for Jaron Ennis. He came to the venue properly. We can look at him and see that he can carry the night. He certainly has the boxing acumen to be in there and to wow fans. He delivers a great performance. He's very versatile. He's got a lot of skills. He's the complete package. And I think that when his opponent looks back maybe in another 5 or 6 years and sees that what Jaron Ennis has done in the sport, he's going to be really privileged and honored to have been in the ring with Jaron Ennis, because Jaron is a real deal.
And not survive and do as well as he did in the posture that he took. Yeah. Because he didn't go into that fight to win the fight. Right. He went into the fight to go the distance. He achieved his goal, to go the distance and showcase one of his skills. Yeah. The intention was not to win. Right. And he could be proud of the situation. And who knows, he may go on to be undefeated from the how on out and be a champion himself with that one loss, as Canelo was with Floyd.
No, exactly. That's the point. That's, for the boxing listeners and the fans that are listening in, remember, people make so much hoopla, right, about losing. The fact is when you get in there and you lose against a guy like that, it's not bad for your resume. It's definitely not bad for your resume. And there's a lot of things that you're going to learn being in there with the best of the best. And the future.
And you didn't get knocked out.
Yeah. I mean.
And you didn't get dominated either.
Right. He went the distance.
And you landed some punches. He dropped that left hook on Ennis a few times.
Yeah.
I mean, at least 10 times or something like that.
Wow.
So it wasn't like it didn't have any power to it, but he planted it.
So how did Ennis take that? How did he take getting caught with the hook?
It bounced off him.
Was he switching his lead, or where was he? Was he fighting conventional or left-handed? Or
it looks like he was stepping. He was in between switching.
Okay. Yeah, that's a problem. Getting caught up in there. That's called caught between two lovers, between your southpaw and your right side, man. You don't want to get caught in the middle.
He wasn't affected at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it with a score, as I said, of 120 to 108 across the board. It doesn't sound like it was more like, let me get my 12 rounds in and let me make sure that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. He even quoted himself, he gave himself a grade, and he quoted himself, and he was like, listen, man, I got to throw more punches. Right. So he's very critical of his work, of his own work. He's like, I just need to be throwing more punches. So,
well, that guy could move though. So I can understand his next fight, that'd be an adage, throw more punches. But he would have threw more punches if he could catch up with this guy the way he needed to, and he just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
he couldn't do it.
Right,
he couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I get that. That was a great breakdown, Harold. Definitely a great breakdown of the Jaron Ennis fight with Karen Chukhadiazian. If I didn't say your name right, I apologize, man. Please, forgive me. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to phonetically spell it. I'm phonetically spelling it. Chukhadiazian, something like that. Yeah. So congratulations. I just said your name 3 times, giving you some props. Good work. We look forward to seeing you in the ring again. And let's move on to the end of our program. Let's move on to the Gervonta Davis versus Hector Garcia fight. Took place at 135 pounds. It was a great contest. Pretty much Davis weighed in at 134 even. Garcia weighed in at 134 even. Gervonta Davis has 27 wins, no losses, no blemishes on his record. And Hector Luis Garcia is 16-0 coming into this fight. No losses on his record. It appears to be a very interesting bout coming into the fight. It's for the WBA World Lightweight title. And let's talk about that, Harold. Give me a breakdown on that fight.
Well, we had to be in the ring with him. So when he came in, he had a yellow tape from a crime scene in his hand. So when he jumped in the ring and he was dancing, going through the usual procedure when you first get in the ring, he had the crime scene
that's
in
great.
his hand. It was about maybe 4 feet, 5 feet. He drug along his feet. And he danced around and he went to his opponent and he kind of just let it fall at his opponent's feet. Crime scene tape.
Snap.
And that was kind of good. His handler came by and picked the tape up, rolled up, put it in his pocket after, the theatrical thing was. So if you guys happen to watch the fight, we're standing right there as he's moving. So that person is I.
Right.
So his confidence was just through the roof. And the way he went about the fight was just great. He decided, I'm not going to take a step back. I'm going to stand in the pocket and I'm going to take some of these punches to give what I need to give.
Right.
So he never took a backwards stance.
Right.
He stayed in the pocket and he took some blows. He got hit a few times, a lot of times, in order to deliver his work. I was really impressed with that because he was going to beat this man at his game and outsmart him. And he was able to do that. His stamina was great. And he has a lot of power, by the way the fight ended. I've never heard of a fight ending like that, but it did. So we can discuss that. But that's what I saw. I saw a confident, strong Tank in the pocket the whole way.
Yeah. He definitely. It seemed to me that he had no respect for him. Even if you go back to the weigh-in, at the weigh-in, when they're just about ready to weigh in, he grabs. Gervonta Davis grabs Hector Luis Garcia by the shoulders, like to feel him. Like he's grabbing him, like he's trying to feel him in the shoulders and stuff. Like really seeing like, okay, what are you made of?
Yep.
I thought that was like, I've never seen a fighter actually do that.
Canelo does that.
Yeah.
Floyd has done that.
Really?
Yes. Canelo did it recently. It was beautiful the way he did that.
It was very vile.
Sized that man up in the situation. Yes.
It was vile the way he did it. It was vile because he kind of grabbed the guy's jacket and spun it and flipped it and shook it up and down. And it was kind of like he was robbing the guy.
With the guy in it.
With the guy in it. With the guy in it. Yeah, it was great. And I was like,
so he ragdolled him. Kind of ragdolled him?
Yes, he ragdolled him.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Oh,
that's
he did some serious posturing there.
But he dit it with such a humorous, like he's so funny, man, because he just grabbed it and it was almost like he was like you know how like a pit bull will come up to you and smell you and kind of rub on you and like mess around with you like that? That's what he did. That's what he was doing. It was almost like he was being doggy in there, man. And it was great. It was great theatrics, but more importantly, there was something to that, right? So when he gets in the ring, fast forward, bing, 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 the ring, the bell rings, he round by round, he's in the fight and you can see him, like you said, walking Hector Garcia down, hitting him with shots, pulling, doing pull counters and hitting him, rolling, dropping the lead hand, but really like it was almost reminiscent to James Toney. Come on, Come on, Gervonta Davis. I know you were watching those James Toney films of that shoulder roll and that pull back. And we could see, the East Coast, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, shoulder roll. That's very prevalent over here in these parts. But you definitely did it like a pro. And again, he walked him down. He pull countered. He threw uppercuts off that, pulled over to the right, shot uppercuts, landing the overhand right. And it was just too much. It was just too much.
It was beautiful. It was the attitude attached to all of that. As you said, that was really great too.
Yeah. I mean, it was beautiful to watch. And, listen, Gervonta Davis is bringing people out, man. That arena was packed. Harold, just guesstimate, or you may even know the numbers to this. How many people were in the arena? Tell the listeners.
19,700 and some change.
Wow. He packed that house like that, man. And I'm sure he could do more. I mean, he did that in New York. He did the same thing in New York at the Barclays Center. People are coming out for Gervonta Davis like you can't believe. And I saw him in a post interview. He was something like something about Ryan Garcia. I don't know if you were listening to that, but Ryan Garcia said something like, hey, sign the contract. Let's make the fight happen. And Gervonta Davis was like, listen, man, stop talking. Just sign it. If you really want to fight, stop talking and just sign the contract. He said in a post-fight interview, which I thought was really great. He just he was picking at his forehead, kind of like, just like picking at his forehead. It was just like, yo, dude, stop talking, enough talking, just sign the contract. We could go to work. We could just go to work. And I just thought, this guy he's a dog, man. Gervonta Davis is a dog. And really, at each fight that he has, just becomes more and more exciting. He's getting better and better. Young fighters that are out there, take a look at his trajectory. Take a look at his dedication and what he's doing. I mean, this guy's been a pro since 2013. He made his pro debut in February 22nd, 2013 in DC in the Armory, right? He goes on to have a multitude of fights Hector Lopez. He fights, I'm just throwing these names out. Cristobal Cruz. He fights Jose Pedraza, which was a breakthrough fight for him. He TKOs Pedraza in the 7th round. Goes on to fight, Liam Walsh. TKOs him in the 3rd round. He gets a KO of Francisco Fonseca, who was a pretty good fighter in the 8th round. He then he has a couple of other fights. Then he meets Uracus Gamboa. Granted, Gamboa was, kind of out. I don't know if this was just a step-up fight or just a walk-up fight. He took that for 12 rounds. Steps up, fights Leo Santa Cruz, drops Leo Santa Cruz in the 6th round, 2 minutes and 40 seconds of the 6th round, out in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, in Leo Santa Cruz's home territory. Then fights Mario Barrios, Isaac Cruz.
Stop.
Yes.
That fight there proved to me, without a doubt, that the man has excellent boxing skills because he had one hand.
Right.
And he had to apply all the power, all the feints with the one hand.
Right.
And he showed pivots. He showed that I can box. He won that fight clearly, easy with one hand. Right. And he delivered power shots and jabs at a rate as if he had two hands.
Wow.
So he was able to double up the work rate on one hand and still deliver great work.
And that was 3 fights ago. It was at Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. The scores for the Isaac Cruz fight was 115 to 113, 115 to 113, and 116 to 112, all in favor of Gervonta Davis. But then even more, He comes all the way over to the East Coast and he steps in the ring with Rolando Romero in a highly contested fight, in a highly anticipated fight. There was a lot of talk in this fight and everyone started to go, I don't know if, Gervonta can pull this off. This is a little bit much. Rolly Romero was talking the talk, great talker, big puncher, big puncher. But sure enough, sixth round of a 12-round contest, he stops him in 2 minutes and 39 seconds with a straight left hand on the exit, like an exit shot. Boom, hits him. Rolly Romero hits the ring, falls onto the floor. Fight is over. Crowd goes wild. That was that was in May of 2022. I was actually at that fight, and it was unbelievable to look at the crowd and to look at what he was capable of doing in that fight. It was a big fight, very impressive win for Gervonta Davis. And then he comes back right here at the Capital One Arena in Washington and, stops Hector Garcia in the ninth round.
Great fight.
Yeah.
Great fight.
Yeah.
Garcia was hitting him. Garcia was picking shots. They were going back and forth. There was no doubt about that. I mean, Garcia stood in there and he delivered his work. I mean, It was a good fight all the way around until, the obvious power and precision and placement.
Yeah.
More placement, Mark. The placement.
Yeah.
Just kind of, once he started placing where he wanted to place it, there was no turning back.
Well, I love that you said that, Harold. I love that you said placement, because as I was watching the film, when I was watching the film back, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking one of the deciding factors between the two punchers in that fight, and really all of Gervonta Davis's fights, he's getting much better at his punch placement and the accuracy of where he's landing these very, very critical shots. So he's getting his opponents out of there because he's placing those shots, and you can really see the punch placement accuracy in his work. So like I said, I'm very impressed. I'm overly impressed from this last performance, and really looking at his resume in retrospect, when you really break it down like we did tonight, you can really see how this guy, and this is what I was saying to the young fighters out there, this is how you build a career. This is how you fight. And you step up and you take really good quality fights. He's got an impeccable resume and he's on his way to doing some really, really big things in the sport. Right now he sits at 28 wins, 0 losses, and 0 draws with 26 big wins by KO. So he's running around here with a 92.86 knockout ratio, man.
Beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. and I'm excited to see what Gervonta Davis is going to do in the future, Harold. We know he's going to do some big things.
Yes. He has a streak in him. And his nickname used to be Baby Tyson or Little Tyson back in the day. But that only comparison because once he gets you hurt, he wants to finish you. Oh. And every fighter doesn't have that type of kill. Oh, yeah. So he does. So that appeals to the masses, of course. And he's able to deliver it. But the way he's built, Mark, his frame, it doesn't lend any negative with a taller man. Yeah. Or a shorter man.
Doesn't matter.
His frame works in either environment. Yeah. And that's what makes, and he can box. And he has power. So that what makes him Tyson-like in that, Tyson was outweighed by all of his opponents and and his jab was shorter than theirs, yet he dominated. Yeah. And Tank has the same type of thing, but he's on weight with his opponents. Yeah. So he should be, as he is, unstoppable.
Yeah, no. I mean, he's doing big things in the sport. He's a big puncher. He's a southpaw, which makes it even harder. And, you know,
he switches well.
And he switches well. He knows when to switch. He's got a beautiful boxing IQ that just keeps getting better. And big things are coming down the road for Gervonta Davis. You know, he left Mayweather. Mayweather did amazing things for Gervonta Davis.
Yes.
But, you know,
showed him the blueprint.
Yeah, he showed him the blueprint. And here you go. You know, we talked about that on the last podcast, how you could see Gervonta, some of the same things that Mayweather was doing, stab to the body, setting up the stab, setting up the stab to land that overhand right. You know, you could see if you look film by film and you have them side by side, you can see how Gervonta Davis picked up a lot of really good things, but he lets
himself get hit for advancement.
Yeah.
Floyd didn't do that at no time. Even when he was pretty way, Floyd knocked people out.
Yeah.
He didn't take that not unnecessary, but he didn't give to get at times. He never did that. Tank is doing that, but that is the allure for the fans. And I would say on my level, his opponent says, well, maybe I can hit him. And at Mark, as of course, you know, when you're trying to hit, you can get hit. And I think that's what happens to his opponents.
Well, and even, you know, Hector Garcia even made a comment in a press conference, said the guy's punches are big, man. I felt his punches. He's a big puncher. And he hits really hard, and I couldn't stave him off, you know?
He blinded him, Mark. He blinded him. He literally blinded him. He could not see after he took that punch, and he was going to his corner. He was going to the wrong corner. He was going to
enemy territory.
And he had to turn him around, and he sat on his stool, and, you know, I was sitting right around, and he just said no.
Yeah, can't do it. He just
said no. And that was it.
Yeah, well, that's what a big puncher will do to you. That's what
Gervonta find out. He said he was blind for me. He could not see.
Yeah. That's a problem. That's a problem when you're fighting a big southpaw who throws a big looping left hand or over the top or comes up with the uppercut and then finds that left hand around the guard or straight up the middle. Man, he's got a lot of angles on the left hand as well, meaning Gervonta Davis does. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great fight, exciting. I'm excited to see what's going to come down the pike, Harold. I really am. And the last thing I wanted to ask you really quickly, we have about 5 more minutes here, or maybe even less, but I just wanted to know, were there any behind the scenes things that the fans here listening in on the Boxing Breakdown will really want to know? What happened? What is it like to be, you know, to be a judge or a supervisor or a coach, or, you know, what is it like to be behind the scenes in a mega fight like this? Just share that, or any impressions you got.
Well, Mark, you've been there several times, so you got your own estimation for sure. So from me, the main thing was I just couldn't believe I was in the situation, you know, to actually see them in the flesh doing what they do. And it's amazing. They're like any other human or whatever. They just happen to do something that I appreciate. Yeah. So when you see that kind of interaction with their corners and everything that goes on along around it, it's really great. And the fans, how the fans are there, you know, and, you know, when you're walking them out and there's a lot of people making noise and all that kind of stuff, you can really feel that, you know, the passion of boxing. So, you know, I'm blessed to feel that. And that's what that was. But there were so many different characters out there that I can't even start with, you know, from, you know, the fair sex to the ball players to the politicians, you know, to so many different people. And, you know, there was a little ruckus in the crowd, and involved some fighters and some rappers and all that. It just made for a great, colorful situation. So I was happy to be there.
Wow. Yeah, man. Well, Harold, it's been a pleasure. This has been a great episode of the Boxing Breakdown. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching us on YouTube, we appreciate you being with us, and certainly hit the like and subscribe down below. You know what to do. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, thank you for being with us tonight. And on behalf of Mr. Harold Hunt, I am Mark Roxey. This is the Boxing Breakdown, and we will catch you on the next episode. Peace and love.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you tuned into the #1 undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxey.
Peace and love, and we'll see you on the next episode.